Hi, everybody in podcast land and also on YouTube. I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Riley.
And I'm Linus.
And this is the Carpool Critics movie podcast, where today, for some reason, we are doing 1995's should have won Best Picture, Mortal Kombat.
Woo!
Spoiler alert!
And if you're one of those people who likes to watch movies ahead of time and follow along, then next week we are going to do Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. It's happening!
It's happening.
But for today, it's Mortal Kombat all day. So, David, why don't you tell us what you're giving this movie out of 10?
Mortal Kombat is unnecessary, stupid, and pointless, and I love it so much. -7 out of 10.
What does that mean?
It means it's so bad it's good.
That's
yeah.
amazing.
We established that in the
-7?
previous episode.
-7.
Like you don't only go for a negative rating. You go all the way down to 7. Like you could have done -2
It was
or
such
something.
a joy to watch this movie. I haven't watched it since I was a kid, and I think I mixed it up with Armageddon, which is way, way, way worse. And so watching this was like such a joy. I enjoyed it so much.
Maybe you
No
mean that
way.
like it's a 7 out of 10, but in like some
In the
weird
so bad
upside
it's so
down
good. Yeah, I had
backwards
good
world.
laughs. I enjoyed a lot of it.
Okay, we actually need to drill down
yeah.
on this a bit more, because Armageddon is a way better movie than this, but Armageddon's not a -7. It's probably just like a 4. So like, are you saying that because this movie is so much worse, it's like full circle and it comes back the other direction and slaps you on the good
absolutely. Yeah,
side?
this movie is like pathetic in all the right ways, and I just really enjoyed it more than I thought I would. There was so much like happening that was silly and fun, and like the fights are pretty bad, but the things that come out of people's mouths are so weird and stupid and out there that I just had such a good time.
Totally. I mean, in the first 5 minutes, we get like a dramatic sunglasses removal. We've got shotgunning a guy through a window and
yeah.
this line, "Let's dance." I mean, there's a scene transition right at the beginning of the film that is literally fire.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I love it. I
you-
love it.
you
Okay,
wait
we
your
got to
turn,
keep going with the
Linus.
slogans though. We're gonna get it deeply into all this.
All right, Riley, what are you giving it?
Okay, my slogan is
No one cares. No one cares what you think.
I
You're a
can't
hater.
believe I just wasted an hour and 40 minutes of my life. 2 out of 10.
Yeah, you're coming from the angle of not even having played the games. Is that right?
No, I didn't really play the games. I mean, I was aware of them, and I probably played it once or twice at a friend's house or something, but yeah, I really didn't play them. And my feelings are mixed. Like in the beginning, I was like, oh, I'm more into this than I thought it would be, but we'll get into that. James, what's your slogan?
Oh, boy. I just wrote boring combat. That's it. More like boring combat, 3 out of 10. Like,
Oh my gosh.
it has some moments where they put things on screen that I recognize from the game, which I appreciate. You know, when someone does like a leg sweep, you know, like down and low kick, such an
Yeah.
OP move when you're a kid. So I appreciate when they put that kind of crap in, but overall, just pretty brutal in every respect. Can't wait to slay this one. Oh, I've played lots of Mortal Kombat. I loved it as a kid, actually. I've owned multiple games, played a crap ton of it. Usually play Scorpion. But yeah, this movie sucked. I watched this movie as a kid like once or twice. I thought it was cool. But yeah, nope, it's not.
Even having not played the games, really, I could tell when they were using a move from like the game.
Yeah.
A few times, anyways.
You would think, but sometimes it was really weird, and they happen in these weird departures that, or you have no idea why they did that. Anyways,
Right.
Linus.
I gave it exactly the same rating as James, 3 out of 10. But my little write-up is I couldn't wipe the smile off my face the whole time.
See, how is...
It's just
Okay.
it's so good. It's so good. It's so bad it's good. I'm with David on this one.
It's like
For
a
sure.
horrible movie, but those 3 points are all made of your enjoyment of it, which is
Yeah,
nuts.
it's in this weird zone where it's like too expensive to be a B movie, but not nearly good enough to be an A movie today. So it's I don't even know how to categorize it. It's just
It's a B movie that got branding or
it's
marketing.
its own thing. Yeah.
That's basically in the same
Oh.
category as The Room. That's what you're saying. It's like a really bad movie.
Not even
the room, you
close.
can't see where the money went. In this movie, you can see the money. It's
Yeah.
on
True.
screen. And
That's
I'm really
true.
excited to talk more about it after we talk about our sponsor.
Oh, look at this guy segueing. Carpool Critics is sponsored by Manscaped Performance Package Kit. It's a thing you can buy. It comes with a ton of stuff, including their new lawnmower waterproof trimmer with advanced skin-safe technology that helps you reduce nicks and cuts. And I hate nicks. All of them. Their crop preserver ball deodorant is also in the package, so is their Weed Whacker nose and ear trimmer for all you old people with long ear hair. And their new Shears 2.0 luxury nail kit. Dang, you be looking fly. Head to manscaped.com/carpool20 today and get 20% off. Plus, free international shipping. Plus, you'll get the Shed travel bag, which has a really good zipper on it, and a pair of their anti-chafing boxer briefs. Available for limited time. We're also brought to you by Private Internet Access VPN. PIA helps you hide your true IP address so you can bypass geo restrictions and censorship. You can connect up to 10 devices at once, whether they're in Earthrealm or Outworld. It doesn't even matter. And it includes an internet kill switch. If your VPN gets disconnected involuntarily. PIA is available for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and even as a goddamn Chrome extension. So check it out today at lmg.gg/carpoolcritics.
Man, Goro just milked those screams, those big yells with all four arms up. He just loves doing that.
Yeah.
That scoundrel.
I love that animatronic. I think when it looks good, it looks sick. And like practical effects just always look good. And I mean, there's obviously limitations like when he's fighting and it's just like a rubber arm coming from off screen and punching people.
Or just any part that moves, like his neck when he's moving his
Yeah.
head around. You can tell it's like kind of folding foam.
Even as
Yeah.
someone who enjoyed the movie, I actually cannot get behind the Goro animatronic. I just found it hilarious. Like, I enjoyed how bad it was, but quite frankly, I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take it seriously anymore after I realized it reminds me of the baby from that Dinosaurs TV show.
Oh,
Why?
for sure.
Oh my
100%.
It looks exactly like it.
Yeah.
Or just the
Yeah.
movement.
Like the texture and stuff.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know what we're talking about right now, that's probably because you haven't watched this movie since 1995. So, Riley, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Okay. Before the Emperor of Outworld can conquer the realm of Earth, he has to achieve 10 straight victories in the ancient fighting tournament known as Mortal Kombat, for some reason. The Emperor's demon sorcerer, Shang Tsung.
Shang Tsung.
Shang Tsung. Shang Tsung.
They say
The
sung
Emperor-
in the movie.
It depends who says it
They
in the
say
movie.
Sung. Okay, here we go.
Kano says it like sung. But
The Emperor's demon sorcerer, Shang Tsung, has already led Outworld's fighters to 9 straight victories while absorbing the souls of his defeated opponents, of course.
naturally.
To prevent the invasion, Lord Raiden, God of Thunder and Protector of Earthrealm, recruits 3 humans: Liu Kang, who seeks revenge for his brother's murder, Sonya Blade, a Special Forces agent also seeking revenge for her partner's death, and Johnny Cage, a martial arts movie star seeking to prove his fighting skills aren't just movie magic. The 3 are brought to Shang Tsung's island, where they fight in both official and unofficial duels against tournament fighters and the demonic ninjas, Scorpion and Sub-Zero, because those are a thing. When Johnny Cage defeats the 4-armed reigning tournament champion Prince Goro by punching him in the nuts and kicking him off a cliff, Shang Tsung
Hey,
captures
spoilers!
Sonya. Whoa!
He's already done a spoiler.
we
alert.
didn't.
This is
Spoilers.
spoilers. We're doing the whole plot synopsis. Shang Tsung captures Sonya and takes her to Outworld, pursued by Liu Kang and Cage. Katana meets them in Outworld and reveals she's actually only the adopted daughter of Thanos. She helps them infiltrate Shang Tsung's castle, where Liu Kang defeats the sorcerer and thus frees his brother's soul. Back on Earth, the team's victory celebration is interrupted by the Emperor, who has come for everyone's souls, but Raiden and his fighters are ready to stop him.
And they play that damn theme song again for the
They love
third
that theme
time.
song.
It's a sick theme song.
Okay,
It
well,
is pretty good.
when you're watching the movie, you can tell when you're watching the movie, or I had a hunch, just because of the way they lean into it and they love it, and the fact that they play it on like frame 1, even before the movie. It's saying New Line Cinema, and you're hearing this damn song already. You can tell. I was pretty sure this song came out before this movie was made.
Oh yeah,
And it
that's
did.
the first thing. That's the first thing I wanted to say is that I was not excited going into this movie. Like, you guys were like, "Oh, let's do a fun one. Let's do Mortal Kombat or whatever." I've never seen this movie, and right off the bat, the theme song comes in, and it's like this '90s dance, like, And I was just like, amazing. It changed my mind. I did not want to see it. And as soon as it comes in, I'm like, I'm
so
excited
good.
about this now.
I like the
I'm
choice to
down.
play it right off the top because it really amps up the energy.
That song was
Yeah.
unironically on my like mix CDs that I burned as a teenager.
Oh, heck yeah.
Even though I never actually watched the movie again. So this is a movie that I never owned. I only rented when I was a kid and when like VHS rental stores were a thing. But that song is so good. What else gets you pumped like that?
That song came out in '93 for the console release of the games, because remember they're arcade games originally, and then it was re-released again on. They made a whole Mortal Kombat album that got released again on a later game launch. So the song was well known by the time the movies came out. When this movie came out in '95, actually, because I was looking at the characters and the plot of this movie, and I was thinking, wait, like what game was out at this point? Because there's so many characters that could have used.
The first three, I think.
It's true. The third one, not Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Mortal Kombat 3 came out in April of 95. This movie came out in August of 95. And then Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, which had more characters, also came out that same year.
There's
I
enough
had
characters
no-
in this movie.
There's a lot of characters, yeah.
I don't know, though, David, because I found myself being like, why are there fights with non-canon characters? Like, why does in any of the Mortal Kombat fights, why are they fighting a random guy I've never seen before? When there's so many characters they could use, why not just be fighting one of them?
Well,
I think
totally
it's because you
answer
need
that.
to you need to be able to dispatch people quickly and show how badass people are. If it's like named characters against named characters, then that fight has to go on, and it's not quite as badass.
That, and they clearly set up a sequel. Like, that was obviously the intention from the get-go. So they need to have someone to fight in Mortal Kombat, the second movie.
Sorry, this one basically follows the premise of the first game, where there's been 9 Mortal Kombats that Earthrealm has lost and tries to invade. So I guess they were faithful.
I have a question. Why? There's a point in the movie where the good guys ask, why doesn't he just invade? Like, why doesn't the Emperor just invade? Why does he have to wait until he wins 10 tournaments or whatever? And then Raiden he doesn't even answer the question. He just starts talking about something else. And I was like, wait, why can't he just invade? Why does he have to wait for who set these rules?
The Elder Gods.
No, Raiden totally... I mean, that's how self-aware the movie is, though. He totally gives the camera a look there. He's like, who cares?
Okay. No, this is a really good question, because there are parts of the movie where I'm like, is it self-aware? Because like Raiden in particular, there's a part where he's like, in that same scene, they're on the ship and he's kind of like explaining the whole premise of the situation to them, and he laughs and says, "Ha." Oh, he says, the fate of billions will depend on you.
That's exactly it. I have that note right here. I say, what the hell is with Raiden's voice? And then I say, the fate of billions will depend on you. Sorry. Like, that was obviously an outtake that they put right in the film.
No, I don't even know. Like, is it? It doesn't make any sense. It's an outtake? The way he says sorry, though, isn't delivered with the line of like an actor breaking character. It's said as Raiden. So I was like, what this, like, I thought that too. I was like, this seems like an outtake, but he like, you would expect an actor to be like, sorry guys.
How
but
many outtakes are in character though?
Sorry.
Tons. Lots of outtakes are in character where they just screw up the line, but they just say it anyway in the same stupid accent.
His voice is worse than Dark Knight.
I doubt this guy is like a method actor to the point where he's gonna say sorry as the character.
No,
but maybe, I don't know. Who knows?
His voice, though, is worse than Dark Knight. I hated it.
It's terrible.
It's pretty bad.
It's terrible. Fortunately, he's not a prominent
No,
character.
that's the guy. The guy is like European. That's his actual voice.
It's like a German accent or whatever.
He's not like doing a voice.
Man,
he's totally doing a voice because he's talking like this. You guys.
Oh, sure.
Well,
yeah, he's doing that. But
the
he's
accent's
like,
real.
He's got this sort of like non-American accent, sort of. And it's not fully American. So it's like, I was like, oh, maybe that's just... I didn't think he was like doing that kind of accent. What's his name? Christopher Lambert?
When I see Raiden, I just imagine that's what a Grand Wizard of the KKK sees himself as, is that character. Like, he's just like this white god ruling over an ancient Asian culture. And I'm like, whatever. It's the 90s. They were not doing representation well.
Right.
So like, I'm not super holding it against the movie, but it's just like weird that he's in these white
awesome
wizard
wig.
robes, and he looks nothing like the game from the character from the game. So they made a strong choice to have him be this white wizard dude.
Wait, is the guy in the original game Asian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, because that's so funny because in later games he's a white character model.
Is he really?
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
like they
Hard to tell. He's got this hat on. He's
That's
got
fair.
a black shroud, kind of like balaclava, not a balaclava, but it goes around the sides of his head and neck and stuff. And then he's got glowing white eyes. So yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I spent some time on the Mortal Kombat wiki in preparation for this episode because as I say, I haven't really played any of the games and I haven't really dived into the lore, but there's a lot of lore here.
Yeah.
There's some depth to this universe.
Yeah, there's
I was
11
like,
games so far, just of the mainline ones.
Yeah, that's wild. And even like looking up the plot line for the latest game, Mortal Kombat 11, it's like the amount of points that it hits. Like they go to this realm and meet these people, and there's like 40 different, not even fighters, but just like also other characters. Like
And
that
there's
are part of the
timelines.
story.
There's timelines now.
Yeah.
A couple games ago, Raiden was defeated, so then he sent visions of that eventuality to his past self so that his past self could avoid that eventuality. So now there's like, it's all forked.
And now we question if they're self-aware that it's terrible. Of course they are. As soon as you start sending, premonitions to yourself in the past so that the timeline can be altered, like,
But you're talking about storytellers
Yeah.
20 years later doing that.
Yeah, the games are more self-aware for sure.
I
This
don't
movie,
you gotta be kidding me. You don't
Well, I wouldn't
think it's
question that the
self-aware?
games.
I mean, the luggage bit, okay? Liu Kang throwing Johnny Cage's luggage into the water.
Well,
That
but,
is
but,
the-
hey,
that
that's
is
the
an ape-
difference. There's a difference between being self-aware of like how bad you are as a movie and just including some physical comedy.
Just being bad?
Because
Because
there's
it's
definitely
early
comedy in this
90s.
movie.
It's early 90s camp. To me, that stuff was just cringe. I was like, that didn't age well.
I think for me the best indicator of this movie's self-aware is Johnny Cage himself.
Yep.
The way that they treat him. I think we're gonna disagree though, Linus. I wouldn't nod your head too quick. I think this movie pretends like he's cool, and he's not cool in any way. Like, he's not particularly good looking. He's just like an average white dude. His suit doesn't quite fit right, and he's bad at fighting. He might be the worst in the entire movie, but there's a line in the movie that's like, "You're one of the best martial artists in the whole world." His mentor says that to him, and I'm like, nah, dude, like, I just watched you fight. You're definitely not one
Well,
of
I
the best
know.
What are you
This is
martial
the
talking
thing.
about?
The actor clearly has no martial arts background. Apparently, according to his, I looked it up, and he trained for 2 months up to the role. Like, you can tell right off the bat when he's doing
Yeah.
some kicks. You're like, that guy does not know how to kick.
Yeah.
Well, lots of them are like that. And I mean, honestly, you don't think that line alone is self-aware. Why would he even say that if
Wait,
they
what
don't
line?
know that this is a bad movie with
I
bad
think the
martial
best
arts?
indicator is that later in the movie, they treat him as the protagonist. I think in a modern movie, they would set him up as the side character, and Liu Kang would be the protagonist, and everything would happen around him. But
How is Johnny
it's
Cage the protagonist?
Johnny
Liu Kang's
Cage
the
has the
protagonist all the way,
showdown.
dude.
Yeah.
Johnny Cage is the one that has the face down with the villain. They're the ones that have the
What?
face to face.
What? No, he's
before.
not.
Yeah,
What are you
before.
talking
about?
They're the ones that have like the emotional ones. At the end, Liu Kang has like the actual fight. But like in
Yeah.
terms of like the setup, it's Johnny Cage before.
Oh,
No,
let's
it
talk
isn't.
about this
Which
because I
part?
completely disagree. I think Liu Kang is 100% the protagonist. The
Yep.
whole movie starts off with his entire
Yeah,
motive
yeah.
for revenge, and then we end the movie with him freeing his brother and like achieving
Yeah,
the
yeah,
victory
yeah.
that he was seeking. What did Johnny Cage didn't even achieve anything. Like he
Yeah, he
went
got
out
the
to
girl.
prove that he was a
He's
good
the one that
martial
had
artist to
he's the one
world.
that had the biggest emotional turn though, because at the beginning he's like all self-assured, and then at the end he's like actual self-sincere, and like I think he has a bigger change than Liu Kang. Liu Kang
What
doesn't change at
movie were
all.
you
He's
watching?
static.
I think they
Well,
each have their own. No, he's not stacked. They each have their own arc, but I don't know that he has a bigger arc.
I don't
I
know.
don't
Going
think
from like goofy movie guy to like badass martial artist is a pretty big change.
I'm surprised by this, David. Because we don't see that change, even if it is there. Like the only real indication that he has changed is that he is there at the end with everybody.
No,
But
I
we
think
don't-
that like
we don't have a moment.
He chooses to face down Goro. Like he goes out of
does,
his
but
way
we
to
don't-
challenge him.
But
Yeah,
that
but
would
he
be
started
that would
the
be
movie like
interesting
that.
if he.
That actually
yeah.
is part of his beginning state, because Raiden reveals it on the boat. He looks at each one of the characters and just calls it out. He's like, points at Johnny Cash. This is what's wrong with everybody. Your ego. Points at Sonya, your enemy.
Yeah.
Points at Liu Kang, your revenge.
And his
Fair
first
enough.
line in the entire movie is like something like, "Where'd you guys find these guys? They suck. They're not enough of a challenge for me." He doesn't change at all. He's a self-assured womanizer at the beginning, and at the end he's a self-assured womanizer.
All right, now tell me how Liu Kang changes.
No,
Well,
I agree with you that
he
there's not
accepts
much
his
to say
destiny.
there.
Yeah.
He takes on, because before he was like living in America, right?
And angry and running away from himself.
And blaming himself partially for his brother's death.
Yeah. He totally changes.
He's the one who gets an emotional climax where he faces his brother.
100%.
I would give this to you, David, though, that it's not that apparent that he changes in terms of like his attitude towards like the importance of protecting Earth Realm or whatever. Like we don't see him being like, yes, I will. Going to America was wrong, and I have to be here with my people or whatever. Like we don't really see that, but it's kind of implied.
Yeah.
Well, there's not much of a denouement. They get back to home where everyone's celebrating, and then they show Khan's there. So it's like, dun 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 dun. It's
like a 2 minute.
And that final shot is so bad. Like in a modern movie, you'd have like Raiden be like, "Let's go," and he would like fly into the air in like a burst of lightning. But they just line up and like do their crappy like fighting pose.
Power Rangers.
But
Okay.
Raiden's eyes go sparkly.
Back to the self-awareness, okay? Did anyone else notice that bit where Liu Kang is running down a ramp towards, I think he's fighting Reptile at this point, and he does like a little action jump as he's running down the ramp?
yeah. I love
So
it.
here's the thing. This movie came out 3 years after Super Cop, okay? So Jackie Chan movies were already making their way into Western culture. There's no way Western filmmakers were going into this and unironically having Johnny Cage be told that he's the greatest martial artist in the world or whatever.
Okay.
It's
but
100% self-aware. They
I
know
get what
it's
you're
bad.
saying. I get what you're saying, but I think that if there is an element of self-awareness on the part of like the makers of the movie, it is kind of like interspersed with a more earnest movie that is here. Like it's not like we're watching a parody film where they like know exactly what they're doing and they're not like turning to the camera and being like, "Really?" or something, you know? Like there are these moments, and I'll give you that his little like run and a skip and a hop down the ramp thing is like pretty like, I'm like, how could they put that in the movie and not realize that looks stupid? But I think that they might have a few, I'll give it to you that there are like parts of this movie that might be self-aware, but as a whole, I wouldn't give it that designation.
Here's my question. Are you self-aware? Because
I think
this
so.
is a kid's movie.
Sometimes I have to ask myself.
You have to go into this remembering that video game culture in the mid-90s was totally different than it is today. This is a movie that was designed for kids aged like 8 to 14. So if you're going in and you're watching this movie through like...
I think it would be a little older than that because that was
Yeah.
a very graphic
I think it's like
game.
the regular
I watched it when
demographic,
I was
18
10.
to 35.
Yeah.
I
sure.
enjoyed I can't believe my parents let me watch it. But yes, I was 10 when I watched this. I enjoyed the heck out of it. And if you try to watch it through a like adult viewer lens, I think you're totally missing the point.
You know what makes me so mad is even if the actor was a really good martial artist, narratively they still screwed up because how could it possibly be that Johnny Cage is a laughingstock among martial artists and everyone thinks he's bad at martial arts, yet he's Earthrealm's premier champion. Like he's one of the 4 best people we have. Wouldn't he look good at fighting on film? What the hell?
Not
Yeah,
if he
that's
only has
dumb.
crappy opponents to fight on film, obviously, James.
No way. This is so stupid.
Well,
really
I don't
bothered
know.
me.
I could see
Hold
that.
on. I could totally see that. If you had a great martial artist star in that film you just watched, would they be able to properly showcase their talents?
Yeah, you would tell. You could tell because
Liu
you
Kang
could
is
tell
good.
because in this movie, there's a bunch of bad cuts. Like someone will go to jump and roll on something, and then the cut, it's like clearly this is a different take, and they landed completely differently.
You can tell because you have martial arts training,
Barely.
but you have enough. You have enough to know, like,
Jiu-jitsu.
oh yeah, they're pointing their toe when they kick. They actually like do know how to kick. Okay, that's good to know.
It's so much more than that, though. Like the way someone moves, the way they balance, like that's such a big thing. Is when they're like doing their kicks and they're like holding their arms in, and they're like off balance. Like
I could
there's
tell
a
by the
lot
way-
of stuff that is like even if you don't know martial arts, are a pretty good indicator that like they're no Jackie Chan.
I could tell by the way Liu Kang flew through the air and delivered about 20 kicks in the span of 5 seconds.
He knows
all
how
while
to
off the
fight.
ground. Yeah, he knows. That's technique.
technique.
Right
Yeah,
there.
a total missed opportunity. I was waiting for this the whole movie. In terms of stuff that they should take from the game and put in, no big uppercut. No,
Yeah.
what the hell? The uppercuts are huge in Mortal Kombat, and in lots of levels, when you do it, they smash through you go down to a
I was
bottom level.
expecting that to
When
be the
did
climax.
That never happened.
I was expecting him to uppercut him onto the spikes. Like, how did that not happen?
I've been
But
awesome.
he just kicks him on it or punches him on it. What is
No,
it?
And then they
you
ruin
see
other
an
aspects.
energy bolt. That's the
Oh,
moment.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
how
yeah.
you know he's achieved another level of proficiency because the little red lightning comes out of his hands. It's
It's
cute.
so bad.
Yeah, there's like a fireball thing he does.
I think
Sonya does
Energy
Sonya does like an uppercut / kind of hook that's pretty effective, but it looks just like a regular punch. They didn't play it
Yeah.
up. And then there's other elements that from the game that they put in that they did wrong. Like how many times does he say fatal or he says flawless victory?
Yeah,
like
so many
three
times.
Flawless.
Only one of those 3 times is it flawless. These people are getting hit. Sure, they got lots of health left, but they still got hit.
Yeah.
That's straight up fan service. They had to put it in.
But they put it in three
but
times. Yeah.
No, and they did it wrong. That's fan disservice.
Yeah, they get it wrong. Yeah, there's
well, Rise of Skywalker. It can happen.
welcome to the club. Yeah,
Okay.
there's so much in the fighting that's bad. Like the main kick that everyone seems to do is the like leg going up into out kind of axe kick, but like the force is more going like sweeping sideways. But that's a terrible kick. That's like you have no force going like into out. But they like that seems to be the furthest they got in their martial arts training.
You want to talk no force? How about the kill when Sonya kills Kano? She does
Oh,
like a
yeah.
handstand and puts her ankles around his head
Yeah.
and somehow snaps his neck with like the part of your body that has the least torque. Like she's on the end of the lever and she's like, ugh, and she snaps
you
his neck.
you could really just tell that the hold she had him in was like, he's fine.
Like he could do more damage grabbing her foot and twisting her foot and like breaking her whole knee.
Can we take a moment to appreciate the truly skilled martial arts actresses like Gina Carano right now? Like, man, I get it. It's hard, but watching Sonya fight was really painful for me.
Oh man. Yeah.
The fact that just everything she delivered had obviously about as much force as a flaccid paper towel slapping someone. It was actually flow breaking and immersion breaking, even going into this knowing that I was watching a 90s video game movie.
How about when they're on the boat and she's looking for Kano with her gun drawn and she's sweeping it around the room and her legs are bent in this weird half squat thing? It's so bizarre, man.
so bad.
It's like, could they not? I'm sure they could have found a, good-looking actress or whatever who also had a little bit of.
Oh, for sure. But I think back then you
Karate or
prioritized like the actor side, and she was probably like semi-prolific.
Oh yeah, she was a great.
Oh no, I'm not saying she's great, but I'm saying that they cast her more on that than the martial arts, and they spent the 2 months that they spent training Johnny
Well.
Cage, probably training her as well.
Because
To
I'm
act?
sadistic, I also put on Mortal Kombat Annihilation last night for a little bit.
Yeah.
And in this first scene, which is direct, like picks up right where the first one let off, they have a new actor for Johnny Cage, Raiden, and Sonya. and that Sonya actor in that one, she does some sweet head kicks. You can tell she has some training. So they're out
sweet.
there.
Oh,
Yeah.
they completely changed the actors for the sequel.
Yeah, man, and Johnny Cage, spoiler for Annihilation, he actually dies like in the first 2 minutes.
What?
Yeah.
Johnny Cage does?
Yes.
hilarious.
Oh, so
Yes.
they're like, we're fine switching the actor because he's not going to be there for the most of the movie anyways.
No.
I don't know. And then Sonya has to
That's
avenge
pretty
himself.
self-aware. That's pretty self-aware.
Everyone hates on
I would say
Annihilation.
that
Like
is.
somehow it has like 2% on Rotten Tomatoes to the first one's 13 or something. But I actually thought it was, I only watched like half an hour, but I was enjoying it more because it was shitty in all the same ways, but not as shitty in one crucial way, which I thought that the first movie was actually kind of boring.
Oh, I didn't find that.
I didn't find that at all.
I agree. I was going to ask you guys, like, whether while you guys are watching this movie, are you like into the fights and stuff while things are happening? You're like, I'm excited
No.
because I was like not. I'm like, I could understand. I was trying to think of it in being back in the 90s, like trying to mentally transport myself there and be like, would this have been exciting to audiences back then? But it was hard because I was like, the fights just kind of seem lame. It's like, it's not really exciting the way that
Well,
they're filming
mean,
it. And,
As
I think
David
what-
said, Jackie
I think-
Chan movies were popular. Or
I think
Linus
what
said.
Jackie Chan movies, that's a great contrast, because I feel like watching Jackie Chan movies, there's like this distinct sense of like speed and energy to these fights, and also like interesting maneuvers that Jackie Chan does, and this one had none of that.
I think what works in this movie isn't the fighting, and we all agree it's all pretty bad. It's these locations and these sets that they've built are like really eye-catching. And I mean, they paid for the locations, but they also built these really weird sets that are like really cool. Like when is it Scorpion and Johnny Cage are fighting on like the rafters with all the cobwebs and stuff. It's just like the video game, so it's like fan service, but it's also just like weird and kind of interesting to look at. And I found like the whole movie was interesting to look at.
A lot of people in the reviews that I read hated on the CGI, but like, you got to remember, this is 1995. Yeah, it's not the best CGI of 1995 even, but like, this is 2 years before Redneck Rampage came out. Like, it's not exactly unwatchable.
I mean, it's also years after Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park
Reptile. Wait, it is?
Yeah, Jurassic Park's 93.
Yeah. But remember,
Reptile looked so bad. And did you guys ever watch Beast Wars?
Oh, yeah. It looks worse than Beast Wars.
It was worse than Beast Wars.
And I think that it's important when you're up against the limitations of your time to be aware of what you can and cannot pull off. And like, I think they did a good job when Sub-Zero touches the gun and freezes it. They have like a practical effect that's kind of computer enhanced. And that looks good. But then immediately you have the Scorpion hand opening that can't quite track the hand right.
Where he holds so still. They told the actor like, don't move.
And like, the reptile,
you can see his hand moving and the head staying in the same place. It's like,
and the one that bothers me about the reptile is that he serves no purpose. Like at one point you think maybe he has a bigger purpose because he sprays Liu Kang, and you're like, oh, maybe that poison will come back later in the final fight. No, he's fine. It's cool.
My cat loved Reptile.
Why was Reptile in the movie?
My cat loved him.
Yeah, they probably the CGI company probably oversold their capabilities and like, this is gonna be cool.
They put him in for the cats. The cats love Reptile.
They love Reptile.
But it's not even that like if they just like held the 3D model in the same place, like it's not even that he did look bad, but like it was the way that they animated him moving around the scene. It was like somebody had taken their mouse and was like ragdoll shaking the model
technologist
around in their computer.
The technology wasn't there to animate kind of as fluidly.
I know, but so that's what I'm saying. Like, why try?
They shouldn't have. Especially because Reptile in the video game is just another skin of Sub-Zero and Scorpion. And I get it. In this movie, there's already two of them. You do want a third one. But it's just such a weird choice to make him a little goblin CG creature that they cannot pull off.
After seeing Reptile, I was so glad that they did Goro as practical.
Same.
Because I was scared, because we saw like the four-armed shadow on the wall or whatever, and I'm like, oh man, are they gonna try to make this guy CGI because the reptile looks so bad? And then we see him, and I was like, whoa! But like when he isn't doing anything really complicated, he looks really good.
Totally, and like when the actors are playing against him, it just works a lot better. Your brain can accept it, even though it's like pathetic animatronics by quality standards. There's something in your brain that's not fighting you as much.
By the time you see him doing more complicated things, it starts to look worse. But especially in the early scenes,
I want to go back a little bit. You asked how I can sit and enjoy this movie, and to me, the answer is really simple. They obviously had a really good time making it,
but it's still so boring.
Like, okay, it's so delightfully 90s with 80s inspiration, like that Doom Fortress, even just like the style, like, oh my God, the one-liners are clearly just so self-aware. This is where you fall down. Those are $500 sunglasses, asshole. They used their one swear word for their PG-13 rating for that line. That is a great line.
Okay, Linus, I'm not trying to take away from your enjoyment of the movie, because I feel like this is the type of movie where if you sit down and you truly enjoy it, like, great, that's good for you. But I feel like you're mixing up self-awareness and just cheesy humor. Because not all cheesy humor lines are self-aware, per se.
I don't think he cares at this point if they're self-aware. They're just funny, cheesy lines.
No, but
I'm down with that. But self-awareness means to me that this movie, like, you know, it is kind of parodying itself. And I don't think it's trying to do that so much as it's trying to be like, cheesy humor. I don't know. You know, maybe
I don't know.
Maybe
Like,
it's
is-
too fine of a distinction I'm trying to make here.
Is Batman and Robin self-aware when Mr. Freeze is like, "Nice to meet you," or is it just
100%.
or is it just brutal 90s? Like, I think that's just the 90s.
No, they're self-aware.
I don't know, man.
They
But
have to
okay.
be.
Let's say this. So let's say it is self-aware. Does that mean that it's a better movie? Because functionally, to me, the end result is still the same. I'm like,
Especially if you have to ask.
Well, you can still enjoy it. It doesn't make it a good movie. I gave it a 3 out of 10. Like, it's not a good movie. But the fact that it's self-aware and the fact that they're clearly grinning alongside you, like that Raiden line is the perfect example.
That might be the only line, the only example.
But that's all
we
you
disagree
need.
on that. But
Okay.
That's all you need. He's like, sorry. Like, it obviously doesn't have anything to do with that
I will
scene.
give you that the only explanation that makes sense remotely for that, other than just like they've screwed up in editing, was that it is self-aware. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
It means nothing. And
Okay.
the poses,
But the funny, he
poses
does
and
it
flexing.
later. When
Okay.
Goro is fighting Johnny Cage, Raiden is there and he says, "Ha ha!" Like something happens. Oh, at the ball punch, and he goes,
Yeah.
"Ha ha ha!" And he like hits one of the spectators, and he's like, "Sorry." Like he does.
Oh,
Is that a
yeah,
meme?
yeah.
Is that a Raiden meme?
Totally.
Not
totally.
from the game.
And can we all just like stop and appreciate the poses and flexing before every fight? That is
Oh, yeah.
obviously self-aware. It can't be
That seems like
anything but.
standard kung fu stuff.
It goes on way too long.
Yeah, there's that one guy when there's like a crowd around them in the feast hall where he's just like,
Yeah.
he's just like writhing.
Yeah, it's so good.
That's
So
the guy
good.
that gets iced, isn't it?
Yeah. He gets frozen and like there are guts everywhere. It's disgusting. What's his face?
Kano? Kano?
Kano. Yeah, Kano is like, ew, it's gross. Like, that's so good.
Yeah.
I
This
like
guy's
Kano.
This guy's a hitman, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I saw his guts. It's disgusting." Like, clearly, we're not. Well, he's talking to a forearm animatronic, like bulb thing. Like, obviously,
honestly,
it's
Honestly, Kano was probably my favorite character in the whole movie.
That
He was great.
performance, the performance from that actor of Kano, Kano was not Australian until this
The
movie.
actor's not?
Oh,
No, the actor is the character is not Australian until after this movie. It's canon after
Oh,
this
okay.
movie.
Yeah, he
Because
was
of that
good.
guy.
Especially when he's like talking to Goro and he's like, "Oh, why is this? What does he say? If Shang Tsung is so great, why does he have such a crummy looking boat?" And I'm like,
Yeah, he actually has
okay.
some funny jokes there.
Yeah.
But Linus, I think that even if you can enjoy all that stuff, the movie is just still so boring, especially in Act 2 when they're wandering around those cool sets you talked about. They're kind of
Yeah.
just wandering around and nothing's going on, so the movie just sprinkles in these like nothing fights. Like suddenly there's a bunch of goons
Yes!
there. They have to dispatch them. I'm like, ugh.
yeah, but no,
What is
that
that?
existed for a reason. It set up one of the best one-liners in the entire movie. You're lucky he stopped us, and Johnny Cage walks away from all the goons. It's so
That
good.
does not
That's not- doesn't
justify having
justify
these
it.
scenes.
Honestly, the thing that made me the most mad about the movie is the tournament itself. They go to this island. It's time for Mortal Kombat, the tournament. First of all, how is Shang Tsung the like MC and mediator of this tournament? What a
Yeah.
conflict of interest. What the hell? What the hell? Second of all, there's no opening ceremonies. I'm not even sure as the audience member when the
No,
tournament
they're
has
just
started.
like on the beach all of a sudden.
Suddenly they're fighting. I'm like, is this round 1 of the tournament?
Yeah.
I don't know where the brackets are, the round robin at all. And then there's a bunch of like fights that are extra tournamental, like when they're fighting Sub-Zero and
Extra
Scorpion and stuff. It's like, do these count or not? And we don't know because all the actual like tournament fights aren't on the same consistent ring or anything, so they can be anywhere.
I've got another plot hole for you, though. So when they first show up in this nether region or whatever, there are some fights against humans where it's like fatality and Shang Tsung like takes their soul.
Why
or
does he get
whatever.
their soul?
And why are they there? Because there's only 3 champions: Johnny Cage,
what?
Liu Kang, and Sonya.
Oh no, there's another.
The,
There's more.
the
There's more.
tournament
there's
is involving so many different fighters from all over the place.
Well, there's more
It's not
Earth Realm.
just-
There's more Earth Realm champions than that too. There's also Art Lean, the token black guy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they've,
I thought it
they've
was
gone
only
and
the 3.
recruited a bunch of different people.
So Raiden is only responsible for recruiting these 3? Okay, then I really have no idea what's going on.
I don't know either. And like, who's
No,
the other guy?
Raiden specifically chooses these 3 Earthrealm champions, but Shang Tsung has gone around and like recruited a bunch of people to be in the
But did
tournament.
Raiden even choose Sonya, or was she just happened to be there, and then Shang Tsung really wanted her to get on the boat because like Shao Kahn told her?
I mean, I feel like you could argue either way, but it's like, it's whatever. Maybe she was. It's not really important.
And what's the deal with Art Lean? He's just a fan of Johnny Cage, and suddenly he's on the boat and gets to go to the Mortal Kombat tournament. He's the actor from 21 Jump Street, the TV show from the late 80s.
He's
And
not.
he
He's not the first, but the second black guy to die in the movie, because you have to have that in the '90s action movie.
Why is he in the movie? Is he there just so a human gets killed by Goro? And everyone's like, dang, and it like raises the stakes?
Pretty sure. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and it raises the stakes for Johnny Cage because he's his buddy. So he's like, no. That seemed really. It was interesting because up to that point, Johnny Cage is like, I'm making stupid jokes all the time, blah, blah, blah. And
He
then
was
his
my
buddy dies
only
and
fan. He
Yeah, it's
knew
just
I was
like-
a good martial artist.
Not just good, the greatest.
Hey, man, those moves, you can't just, no geek off the street can do those moves.
Yeah, I completely agree with James about the tangential, extra tournamental fight scenes, because that was so disorienting to me. I was like, what is going... Because there's a section, there's like 20 minutes of the movie or 30 minutes of the movie where we're just jumping from fight scene to fight scene with no interconnections at all. It's just like this fight scene happens and now we're at this fight scene and now we're at this fight scene.
Yeah, and the
I was
reason
like, what
it's
is
a
going on? What's
problem-
happening?
But in that
Where's
sense,
the plot
it's so,
development?
It's so true to the source material.
No, it's
true.
In the
That's
source
fair.
material,
Just fight.
when you play the campaign of the early Mortal Kombat games, you see like a literal ladder. It's like a column, and it shows your character move up. And the problem I have with what they did in the movie is that there's no sense of progression, therefore no sense of like growth or stakes. You don't get to see like, oh damn, like let's say we saw Sub-Zero like murk somebody. And you're like, dang, Sub-Zero's still in the tournament. It means I'm gonna have to fight him later. And
But
then
we
like
did.
we see people converging.
He killed Flexing Guy.
No, but that was outside of the tournament.
Or was it?
Well, okay.
I don't know.
No,
Here's
that
what-
was just a demonstration. That wasn't part of the
Here's what
tournament.
doesn't make sense about that scene. The camera enters this grand ballroom. There's this amazing feast happening. It's crazy. They're like, welcome to Shang Tsung's lair. I've made this delicious feast for you. Oh, wait a second. Now my goons are going to flip over all the damn tables and we're going to have a fight. Like, man,
I
what
was
an
like,
own goal.
Did they even get to eat? I was so upset. I was like, that food looked pretty good, man. Like, what the hell?
I loved all the gargoyles. I just couldn't stop smiling when they were doing like all this footage of like gargoyles with quote unquote creepy lighting or whatever coming into the castle. There were so many moments in this movie that and to be clear, like it's not the kind of movie that I paused when I had to walk away and like get a snack. Like it's a bad movie. I get it, but it just made me smile. Like what was up with the like 80s hairdo on Liu Kang, that feathered hairdo in his one-on-one in his
Wow.
first one-on-one fight with like 90s sauce on the side. Like his hair is so big. It's amazing.
Oh, his hair is amazing. I think actually Shang Tsung had it out for him just because there was another contender with like better hair.
Way better hair.
Well, no, that was actually funny though, because I was like, whoa, Shang Tsung's hair looks way better than Liu Kang. And I don't know if that's on purpose, because like maybe he's supposed to be more villainous because it's like slicked back or whatever.
Like
But,
I got
Liu Kang's a natural.
a Mission Impossible 2 vibe, you know? Like, you know, in that movie, in every single shot of Tom Cruise, his hair is absolutely immaculate. Like, that was what I got from, and obviously they didn't have the budget to have his hair be immaculate in every scene here, but from time to time, you just look at him and you're like, wow, the stylist spent like freaking an hour making that hair absolutely perfect for this shot. I love it.
Man.
I noticed there's like,
Aesthetically, yeah, I don't know. Who's saying this movie, the cool part is the sets? David,
Me.
you were saying that?
I think so. I
Yeah,
think like
me
they've
too.
got some great locations. Like when they first arrive at the temple or the castle, whatever, and it's all the statues inside, and it's makes no sense. But it's like I think it's just a pleasure to have your eyeballs kind of wander through it.
I thought the castle looked cool, but like, I think James, you said, or somebody said that the fight between Johnny Cage and Scorpion was cool because of all or you said that too.
no,
David.
I have a rant about that.
You said
I have
that.
a rant
But
about
that
that Scorpion
was so
fight.
disorienting to me because I was like, where is this? Like, what? They just teleported
He's in the
into
woods
this random
suddenly.
place? What's that?
He's suddenly in the woods.
Yeah, it's like a dimension portal thing that
No,
he
it's
falls
not.
into, isn't it?
I don't think
remember.
so. And then Scorpion just shows up. Scorpion's got his kunai thing, but instead of it being like a knife on a rope or a chain, which it variously is across the games, it's sentient suddenly and is like homing.
Yeah.
And it's like wrapping around trees and turning corners. So brutal. why do they change that? And then like Liu Kang's looking for Scorpion, he's hidden. He suddenly like cartwheels into view. It was so funny, man. And then they ruined the catchphrase. Obviously, when you go to that movie, you want to see him throw the spear and say, "Get over here!" Yeah. And he does it. But then the ADR is so bad, it doesn't even seem to come from the character. It's like voiceover, right?
Yeah.
And then he continues to say phrases. He's like Yoda, like he can only talk in this one way. And then they like iterate on it, and later on he's like, "Get down here!" He's like, he just wants people to change their position in various dimensions.
I really wanted them to have a scene where he just like said something other than a game catchphrase. But it seemed like he was literally just like a stunt double that they got in, and then they're like, he should say things, and they threw those lines in post.
Well, he's a demon, right? He's not a full-on human, so like he doesn't have the same capacity. I think the thing that bothered me the most.
He was a human. He's undead.
He's undead.
He
okay.
was.
Yeah. But his soul is gone. It's okay. It makes sense.
He's a specter or a wraith.
I really like the scene where they kill him, or like his later fight scene. Where you're talking about them changing levels and stuff, and then his skull face is revealed, and they use the practical effects with the fire. Like that was wicked. That totally
can I say
actually
something?
redeemed the earlier crappy fight scene for me.
I need to talk about that for a second though, because that was so bewildering to me as someone who is not familiar with the lore at all. Like up till that point, I was like, oh, the Scorpion guy is like maybe a guy who's got a snake living in his hand. You know, that I could see that. That's fine. But then at the end, when he rips the mask off and his head turns into this flaming skull, I was like, what is going on?
Well,
and then he explodes. He explodes.
What are the rules for demons?
What's that?
What are the rules for like what a demon can be? I mean, I don't know.
No. But like, I didn't know that he was a demon. They said that he was like controlled by Shang Tsung or something. But I don't think they were like, oh, they're demons.
No, I thought this whole realm is like demons and stuff, isn't it?
Scorpion's actually not from Outworld or Netherrealm. He's from
He's
Earthrealm.
a human that was killed
So,
and then
who
came
knows?
back as a wraith.
Why do you guys know all this stuff? Like, who cares?
Because I looked into the lore because I was like, what the hell is going on? This doesn't make any sense. So I looked up the wiki.
No, you're just watching it wrong then. Because it doesn't matter what's happening, and it doesn't matter if it makes sense. It's just obvious they had a really good time making like a silly movie. I mean, like, okay, here's an example of something that's obviously intentionally bad. There's no way that they intended this to be good. Okay, the fatality move from Goro when he fights the guy in the ring. I forget who he's fighting. Yeah, sure. It's like, I watched that. I actually burst out laughing because it made me think like Bonk go to horny jail like me.
Yeah.
What did he do again?
He like hammer fists him. He's like, dunk.
Yeah, he
And
just bonks him on the head.
after this like big fight, that's it. Like,
It would have been. He should have ripped his arms off.
yeah, like that's
Honestly,
the
at
move.
that point,
He can pick a
at that
person
point-
up and hold them up, and then he still has 2 extra arms to do damage with.
Of course. So if they actually wanted it to be good, that wouldn't have even been hard to pull off with some basic practical effects.
I don't know, because the way that I explained
guess
that
it's
away in my
PG-13.
mind was that they just couldn't do anything else. Like, they couldn't do that much with Goro except have his arms go boom, boom, boom. So it's like, what are they to have him rip the arms off or whatever would be a whole thing. So I was like, oh, that's why they did that, because it's just like too much work.
Go to horny jail.
I love that. That
made
was
me
so
mad about
funny.
with the Goro fights is when Johnny Cage fought Goro, and the only thing I remember from this movie is that Johnny Cage got to do his nutcracker thing and punch him in the nuts.
Yeah.
But then on the rewatch, he does that as his first move against him. He
Yeah.
punches him in the nuts and goes haha, and then runs away.
Yeah.
And then later like kicks him off the cliff. That sucked. He should have won the fight with that special move.
Yeah, that would have been cooler if that's how he actually won the fight. But then that couldn't kill him. This is
Well,
the
he
other
could-
thing
he
that's
could
so
do it and
crazy to
then
me about
kick
this
him off.
movie. Could we not have a scene where somebody expresses bewilderment or skepticism at the fact that they sign up to go to this tournament and you apparently not only die but get your soul absorbed if you lose? Like, these people see that happening, and then no one says anything about it. It's just like, well, normal tournament.
Well, I think it's sort of acknowledged. I mean, they know that they're going into this tournament, to defend all the souls of Earth, and like every soul is going to be absorbed if
No,
they
they
like,
don't.
don't win or whatever. So
No, the other defenders, the other tournament people don't know that.
how do you know they don't? know?
They go in just thinking, oh, it's a cool martial arts tournament. It's like fancy. We're staying at this resort on this fancy island, blah, blah, blah.
What? How do you know that? Also, they might have been deceived. I mean, we see that whole thing where like Johnny meets with his mentor, or who he thinks is his mentor, but it was actually Shang Tsung in disguise.
He's a shapeshifter.
No, I'm not even saying. I'm not saying that the core
that's
three
true.
should have said something, because they know what's going on. But the rest of the Art Lean, by the time he fights Goro, they've seen multiple people have their souls absorbed by Shang Tsung, because he goes right in the ring and says, "Your soul is mine," and absorbs the soul. So like Art Lean should be like, "What the hell's going on?" I was so like, why are these people so chill with this?
Okay.
I think that's a very small complaint for how
I mean,
many
it
things
is,
make
yeah.
no sense in this
Yeah,
movie.
here's another thing that doesn't make any sense.
All of my complaints
Liu
are
Kang
small.
fights Katana finally. Katana fights Liu Kang. She gives him some information while they're fighting, but their fight doesn't go to the death. They just stop fighting at some point. I'm like, what are the rules? What
No, but
is
see,
this
that's confusing.
tournament?
I thought that was a training. That's a training session, I guess.
No,
thought it
I
was
don't know
a
what
match.
that was.
All the
Yeah.
all the official tournament fights have spectators.
There was spectators.
are you
at that one,
sure?
wasn't there?
No, they were guards.
There's no. there's
My
no way to
favorite part
know.
about that. My favorite
no
part of
way
that
to know,
fight
man.
is when Liu Kang very carefully takes Katana to the ground. Like it might be a shot slow motion, but he like flips her over, and it takes about like 4 seconds to go a foot towards the ground, like very gently cradling her, like he wasn't confident he could do the flip without hurting her. It's pretty great.
Well, she had no training either. I think she was a lot more convincing than Sonya, though.
Oh, for sure.
And I guess
100%.
that's got to be one of the challenges in casting something like this, is like you can cast someone according to their acting ability, their looks, and even their like sort of physical fitness, but you can't necessarily cast them for how well you can train them to be a martial artist in 2 months. I think part of what made it easier, though, is that she's supposed to be sandbagging it in that fight. And I really got that vibe. I was like, okay, she's like clearly not actually trying to do any damage here. And then it turns out that that's like what's actually happening or whatever.
Why the hell isn't she wearing blue? Annoyed me. But at least in Annihilation, right at the beginning, even though they've kind of like it's continuity, they don't go home or anything. But in the first scenes of Annihilation, she does have her characteristic like fan blade weapons. So that was nice. I don't know why they're not in this movie. I guess it's because you can't give one person weapons and nobody else.
Just trying to think. I think other people had weapons. Like when they fight that gang in like the hallway. A bunch
Yeah,
of
but they're
them have
nobodies.
weapons. Yeah, that's true. That's fair. Man, I love how all of the opponents. Can we just take a moment to appreciate how far choreography has come in the last 25 years? Like, how hilarious is it that every opponent just stands still to get hit? There's maybe like 4 fight scenes in the entire movie where both combatants are actually moving at the same time.
Sound
Oh,
like
man.
looked
like
like
turn-based.
Sub-Zero was one of the best fighters. That the guy, whoever was doing that, he pulled it
Yeah.
off.
Yep.
Sub-Zero?
I thought that was one of the best fights. Well, the only fight in the movie where I was kind of like, okay.
I don't know.
I don't know.
The amount of eye I could see, I just pictured Fred Armisen under there, and then it changed the nature of everything that they did. Like when he did the cartwheel out of the woods, I was like, "It's Fred Armisen doing a cartwheel." Like,
Well,
this
that's
is great.
Scorpion. That's Scorpion.
Oh, they both look pretty
Sub-Zero
similar,
one was
though.
the one indoors.
They
with
look
Liu
pretty
Kang.
similar though. I mean, all I see is their eyeballs, but
There was just like some more dynamic parts of that fight that I was kind of like,
That's
okay,
fair.
I can get behind. Like I'm entertained.
there
That was
in the
really
Sub-Zero
only
fight
where I
though,
was-
there's a pretty bad like he does like a full gymnastics roll into a push-up, and it's like 6 seconds, and it makes no sense, and I love it.
I was okay. I mean,
I love it.
that-
No, I'm not complaining. I love it.
yeah. Anyway, as
What was
far
the
as the
deal
fights
when-
go,
When Sonya gets captured and then someone puts her in a dress and teases her hair. She has
Yeah,
a
that was-
completely. She's like tied up and has a completely different hairstyle now. What's up with that?
that was
You're
great.
an Outworld,
And-
Sonya. Get with the times.
Yeah, this is the traditional
That actually-
female garb here in Outworld. A sack of
That actually is really-
a sackcloth dress.
That actually is really close to kind of like that climax scene that really pissed me off that I wanted you guys' input on. It's when like Liu Kang is climbing the tower, right? And he's told that he has to face your enemy, face yourself, face your biggest fear. And you're like, cool, he's going to do like 3 simple trials. And one of them is facing his brother.
Yeah.
But the other 2, it seemed like they didn't really happen. He like fought some goons for a second. I don't know. That's about it, really. Then he goes up and fights Shang Tsung and sees his brother. It just didn't really track for me.
Totally. I thought you were gonna say it. I completely agree, James. I thought you were gonna say that when he ran up the little ramp, like he's at the bottom and Shang Tsung is up top, and he's like, oh, And then he turns and just like the camera follows him in an unbroken shot, running up the stairs up to the platform where Shang Tsung is. And it was such an awkward, funny. Like I was, just, maybe Linus, you're convincing me. Maybe this movie is just, it has to be self-aware because it's just so bad.
100%, man.
But this is what's so hard to understand is that I'm like, this is a big property. This is a cultural, moment in 1995. Like people are into this. Why would they intentionally make a bad, sucky movie to appease these like hardcore Mortal Kombat fans?
Here's why. So 2 reasons. Number 1, because I think the biggest reason is because they thought that it didn't really matter. Like, they weren't going to spend the money to make it amazing, right? Because I don't think video games and video game culture were taken seriously 25 years ago the same way that they are today. Like, now you can say, okay, yeah, we're going to make a Tomb Raider movie, or like even something as stupid as like,
Pokemon.
Yeah, sure. A Pokemon movie. Like, you would go into that and go like, oh yeah, wow, this is
or Sonic.
Or Sonic. This is a $1 billion property. Like, we need to this needs to be treated 100% seriously. We're going to bring in Jim Carrey to be the villain, big names. Like, this is clearly a cash in. And so there's only a couple of ways. Like, none of these actors had any manner, or I shouldn't say none, but most of these actors had no manner of career before or after this movie. Like, they're nobodies.
Right.
Liu Kang was in Beverly Hills Ninja.
Yeah.
Well, and Sonya Blade's actress was in Saved by the Bell.
Oh yeah.
But
sure. I agree with
like
Linus,
it seems
though,
like all the
mostly.
actors had like a few credits to their name, but
these are not
nothing
even
real.
These are not even B actors. These are C actors. So there's 2 ways that you can do this then. You can either make a really terrible movie that nobody enjoys, or you can make a really terrible movie that people will enjoy. It's really clear to me that they embraced the latter. They were like, okay, we can't afford like actually good CGI and actually good actors and actually, outstanding choreography. So let's just make it like fun and silly and bad, but in a way that, we're literally they apologize for how bad it is.
Or they
in the movie. Sorry.
Or even if they didn't set out to do that, it's just like, okay, well, the budget's this. We couldn't get these great fighters. Everyone on set is trying to do their best and they're taking it seriously. But then when they get to the edit, they're like, okay, it's clearly not great. So,
honestly,
like during the creation of the movie, they could have taken the stance that like, all right, let's wink at the camera a little bit.
I think I see where you're coming from now, Linus, and I think that maybe if I had this kind of like extra knowledge going in, I maybe would have enjoyed it a bit more. I probably still would have given it a 2 out of 10, but it would be a happy 2 out of 10,
Exactly.
But the thing I want to contrast this with is the Sonics and the Pokemon movies of today, because I feel like going into those movies, I place less importance on them. I go to see like what was it, Detective Pikachu? Yeah, went to see Detective Pikachu, and I'm like, I know the only reason I'm watching this movie is to see photorealistic Pokemon in a movie. Like
really?
I'm not
Ryan
looking
Reynolds?
for a good story, good acting, whatever. I'm not looking for any of this. I'm just looking to see some Pokemon zap each other with special powers.
I think the big difference is now the people that are making the movies are people that are passionate about video games, whereas Paul Anderson in the 90s doesn't give a fuck about video games. He doesn't care at all about Mortal Kombat. He just gets a contract, does his stuff. He's like, oh, I'll play a couple games. I'll take like the iconography and remix it into this thing that works for me. Same with like Resident Evil. It's like these people didn't care, but now we have the people that actually do care about these properties making them.
Is this a function of us having like a more complex and mature film ecosystem now? Like maybe they would make this type of movie now, but it's a straight to DVD instead of going to theaters.
I don't think they make this movie anymore. I totally don't think they make this movie
No,
anymore.
but they totally do make these movies, but they're just, they're on the back end of Netflix and you never see them, or they're straight to DVD or whatever.
Because this has a major IP behind it. That's the thing. So you could still make this movie, but it would be like somehow some group of fans accidentally got the license to make a film about it, and they like launch it as a Kickstarter or something. Like that's the only way this movie could get made.
That actually
I get what you're
happened.
saying. I'm saying that like back then they didn't have this like such a huge market for all of this stuff. So then it was all one market. If you're going to make a Mortal Kombat movie, if you're going to make this kind of stupid, ridiculous movie, okay, yeah, you can use it with a big brand like Mortal Kombat, and we'll put it in theaters because there's nowhere else to put it. But now, if you wanted to make a movie like this, you wouldn't get the Mortal Kombat brand. You would just do a knockoff and put it on DVD.
I think the tone of movies has definitely changed too. Like in the 90s, more movies were goofy. Like Batman movies were goofy. And now movies are so serious. Like the big video game movies that aren't like Pokemon and Sonic are super self-serious. Like Assassin's Creed or Tomb Raider. They're all these like really dour, not fun things that are taking themselves way too seriously. And so I think in trying to fit the tone of the 2010s to 2020s, we've kind of lost a little bit of the magic. I think some of the fun that we had in the 90s when it was just all stupid.
Can blame Dark Knight.
And you got to remember too, like look at this movie from a was it a success sort of standpoint. It was totally a success. They spent next to nothing. People enjoyed it. It made $70 million at the box office. Like, it's a success.
Now the sequel.
The sequel was a different story.
I think that Mortal Kombat, the type of movie that Mortal Kombat was in 1995, is now the type of movie that you see in like DC animated movies, where it's like the only purpose of those movies is to service some fan service for, hardcore fans who want something cool to watch with like cool fight scenes and stuff and like cool Batman moments. But it's an animated movie and it doesn't cost that much.
Yeah,
and they can pump them out, and it's no big deal.
We do have those, like Street Fighter. There was a Street Fighter live action movie that I think is actually more fun than Mortal Kombat. But there's also like 5 or 6 animated movies and like anime series that are really only for people that really care about the characters and the things. Like they're not good movies by pretty much any objective measure. Like they're fine, but it's like I really care about Ken. I really care about Ryu. I really care about all these people. So all these little details really are what make this special, not the quality of itself.
Mortal Kombat content. There's a web series that had 2 seasons, ended on a cliffhanger, and they never made a 3rd one.
Oof. Honestly, animated movies totally scratch this itch for me. Like, I think going into a live action movie, I'm like, this better have, the things that I expect from a solid film. There should be some sort of character arc. There should be some sort of logic to it. The lore makes sense. But for animated movies, I'm like, I can totally shut my brain off and laugh at the self-awareness and the in-jokes and the cheesiness. Like, I can totally do that, but it's harder for a live-action movie for some reason.
Tell me this. Did you enjoy Aquaman?
I didn't see it, but I will, I guess.
It's basically this, but with a much bigger budget and way better CGI and a more developed story. But it's like, I would like to think that it's... You know what? Actually, I take it back. I don't think it's self-aware. I think they were legitimately trying to make a serious movie. But it came out kind of like this to me.
I think they were trying to make a comic, like an Avengers, like a comic movie that kind of knows what it is and makes some fun about it. But it's not like we know we're making a bad movie.
Yeah, I laughed out loud multiple times at moments when I wasn't supposed to in Aquaman, just like I did in Mortal Kombat. The difference is, I think that it's kind of like, it's like when you see 2 people on the street and one of them looks like butt. Their hair's a mess and their clothes suck and don't match and their, socks don't match or whatever. And you're like, oh yeah, okay, they just like don't care. Versus when you see someone that's like all done up and everything they're wearing just like tells you that they're a disgusting, horrible person and an idiot. So to me,
but they're trying really hard.
To me, it's like I have a lot more tolerance for it when it's just because they like clearly were like, yep, I accept that I am just a slob, versus when they try really hard and they look like a moron. So to me, Mortal Kombat is accepting that they're just a slob and it is what it is. You can enjoy me for what I am or you can not.
If you like the bold-faced of it all, yeah, you will like this little tidbit. I chucked on and verified that this was true. I chucked on the sequel and the opening credits kind of like animation where it shows a bunch of fire and explosions by the medallion. And then it goes ching, 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 ching. And those little blades like turn into saying Mortal Kombat. They reused it. It's not just similar, it is the exact same, with the exception of at the end of the animation, it like the whole thing kind of breaks and it says Annihilation under it. I was like, no way they did it.
Well, that's not that crazy. I mean, I don't know. Movies in a series sometimes use the exact same intro. I noticed that The Dark Knight and Batman Begins both have this like just shot of bats flying past the camera and
Yeah, but it's a
But
different.
it's an entirely new CG shot.
Is
though.
it a new
Yeah.
shot?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, and
Oh,
like in the
okay.
X-Men movies, they have like those different intro sequences. They're always different.
I mean, even like in the Marvel movies, when they have the Marvel brand with all the like clips of previous movies and stuff, it's different.
Yeah.
They do a different
Oh, cool.
compilation. It's just
All right,
you
fair
know,
enough.
Wow, that's crazy that they do that on those movies because there's so many tiny little clips and you would never even remember anyway.
Yeah, but it always has like they've always added like the last movie to it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay, I have one more nitpick that can't really be explained away by saying that they didn't care because they could have made this make sense. Katana is the princess of Outworld, right? But she's the princess of Outworld because her mother and father, her real mother and father, were the king and queen there or whatever. And then the emperor invaded and then adopted her to lay claim to the throne.
So,
But why did he have to adopt her? Or he just invaded the country. Just take the
they're from a different realm called like Adenia. And then so Shao Kahn and Outworld invaded that one and then merged them two into one big realm. And then he adopted her there.
That's a big fat
why-
who cares from me.
Why did he have to adopt her?
Who cares?
Because that's a key plot point. The reason why she's there and can help them overthrow the throne is because she has this power. She's the princess of Outworld, you know.
Did you
but
just
now
use
she's
the word
working
plot
with
to
the
describe
emperor's
this
enemies.
movie?
But
Like,
she shouldn't. What?
Did you just use the word plot to describe this movie? Or
There
like,
is a plot. It's a bad plot, but there
Maybe
is
they
a
just-
plot.
Maybe they just wanted to keep calling her princess for some reason.
Yeah,
And so like that's how they got around that.
sure.
I don't know.
But all they needed to do was to have her be the actual daughter of the emperor,
No, but
and she has a change of heart.
no, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense.
No, it's worse.
No, because then she'd be like a different like race. It's a whole different thing. Wait a second
What?
though. Is she telepathic, or is that like did she put a memory into Liu Kang's brain at that one part, or was that like a memory of his? Do you remember what part I'm talking about?
No, I don't. I wasn't paying that close attention.
There's this part where like they have like they're talking and then there's like a flashback and it's unclear whether it's like Liu Kang's memory or she's like telepathically communicating with him.
I'm not sure, but Liu Kang's body was great.
And his face
Yeah.
and hair.
Yeah,
I
he's a
mean,
handsome
like,
dude.
man, like he was one of those guys that I look at and I'm like, yeah, that's like way better than just being like way too jacked. Like, man,
He looks like he can do like chin ups. He looks like Cirque du Soleil fit.
yeah, like actually can do stuff fit. Like, you know how some people will get so jacked that like, you know, they can't even like properly
Scratch
lower
their
their
back.
arm anymore because there's like too much muscle under it. Like he was just like, oh, yeah.
This movie would have been sick if it was like 15 years later and Liu Kang was played by Tony Jaa. You know, the guy from Ong Bak? And they
He
just
can't
have,
act
like,
though. He's a great
Who?
stunt guy.
compared to this movie.
Yeah, well,
like,
yeah, what's the bar's pretty low.
But I mean, Liu Kang's not the weak element on any of it. I don't think
Correct.
you need to replace him. It's all the other people you need to replace.
I'd always,
Which is what they did, in fairness.
that's true.
Yeah.
It always bothered me that Liu Kang was in that, at least in like the first 3 games or whatever, he's like the champion of Earthrealm. Like he's basically the main character and the one that wins and saved everybody. Because I never played him. He was so
Yeah.
non-fantastical to me.
Yeah.
I don't want to play as him. He's basically just Bruce Lee with a fireball.
Yeah, you just play as Raiden. Like,
Yeah, because of that noob move where you can like. shoot
Well, I mean,
across
I'm
the
pretty
screen.
sure he was kind of like loosely inspired by Ryu because Street Fighter came first, and so they just wanted like the kind of generic everyman kind of.
Well, yeah, you need the generic character. Otherwise, all your characters are just wild as hell, and it's just like they don't seem that interesting.
I don't know. I don't think Tekken has any generic characters. I haven't played Tekken since the PlayStation 1 days, though.
There
so,
is
Tekken for sure just has like normal human
whatever
people.
the son of the main villain is pretty normal, and he becomes
Oh.
weirder as it goes on, and like there's more
Jin.
demonic
That's
stuff.
right. Jin is exactly that.
Yeah,
Yep,
Jin
you're
is
right.
the same. There's always that character.
You know what I learned is when Tobias and Boone, when they were making this movie, they originally wanted to make a Jean-Claude Van Damme video game. That was the start of it. And Johnny Cage is based on Van Damme, and that's why his initials are JC, Jean-Claude. Like Johnny Cage. And it morphed into, they didn't get the rights to it, they couldn't do it, and it morphed into this
Well, I mean,
kind of fantasy.
there is a Jean-Claude Van Damme video game. Street Fighter, the movie, the game, has Jean-Claude Van Damme as the motion capture for Guile, because he's Guile in the movie, and so that does
okay.
exist.
Oh, wait, though, because also that's why Johnny Cage does the splits and punches
Yeah.
you in the nuts.
Okay,
Got
wait,
it.
I want to push back on this thing where like these lore points don't matter because Mortal Kombat clearly cares a lot about its lore.
I
You
think
guys been to the wiki?
that's a modern thing. The past it was pretty loose. It was just
When this movie came out, it was just like, man,
yeah,
it's
it
fun.
was whatever. I
Well,
think
especially
I
the
think they
early
reinvented
games.
themselves in the 6th or 7th generation.
Because in the early games, there's no cutscenes and stuff. Like, what do you get even? Like some text on the screen?
No, in the later games, there's definitely cutscenes.
Oh no, no,
there's
I
like
know.
a full story mode. Oh,
And
before
then
it was just
I've
text.
watched on YouTube like
I thought
one,
they,
one
I thought
day.
they
I
had
don't
like
know if I
full
was.
motion.
I don't
Now
know if I was
they do, not the
hungover or
old
whatever.
ones.
I don't know if I was hungover or whatever, but when like Mortal Kombat 10 came out, I think I watched like 4 hours of cutscenes on YouTube one day. I never even got to play the game. I just watched
sick.
it all.
It's
There's a
great.
lot, but in the early, I'm talking about Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. Like they couldn't have had anything other
No,
than
no,
like
it's
some
just
text on
text.
screen.
Nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so maybe like the manual had some
Yeah.
details. Like remember video game manuals?
Oh,
That
yeah.
was sick, man, where you could like read the backstories of the characters and stuff. My Final Fantasy VI manual is like the most dog-eared document that I own because I would just sit and read it when my parents wouldn't let me play the game.
It's actually in I think Mortal Kombat 4 or something like that, where they have they describe like this 6 realms that matter.
Got it.
And what all the characteristics of the people.
Yeah,
who live there are like.
I'm looking it up on Wikipedia right now. And the first game had virtually nothing in the game about the there's a text in the beginning explaining the basic premise, but then if you want to know anything at all about what's going on, there's a comic book, and at the end, when you beat the game with each character, it gives you like a little tidbit of story. Yeah, interesting. So this is why I wasn't interested.
Oh, I was wrong earlier, by the way. They do the theme song 4 times in this movie. It's the last line in my note.
Oh, can we say this because if you're the biggest Mortal Kombat fan here, Linus, you didn't
What?
even know.
I'm not.
You didn't even.
James is.
What? James is?
But
Yeah.
I'm still not.
Okay,
like
well, Linus is second. You didn't even know that the song says Mortal Kombat in it.
I didn't. I thought they were just yelling.
We were talking about this earlier, and I started singing the song like da 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 da, and then when it gets to the vocal part, Linus was like,
I totally had no idea.
I was like,
but
what are
I'm-
you saying?
That's
I am far from a
hilarious.
Mortal Kombat fan. Like, I never owned one of the games in my
No,
entire
that's
life.
fair enough.
I've
Okay.
never owned
Really?
a Mortal
Okay.
Kombat game. Yeah, no. I saw this movie once when I was 10. Like, I played
Oh,
the
okay,
game
so
at
you're-
my friend's house, like, probably 10 times in my life. I thought this movie was, like, pretty sweet when I was 10.
Oh,
That's it.
so you're just a fan of bad movies.
No, not at all. This is just a movie I watched as a kid, and I think that as far as bad movies go, it's pretty darn enjoyable. I think if you're any younger than me and you can't really like appreciate that campy 80s 90s style through the lens of, nostalgia glasses, you're not going to appreciate it. It's just going to be bad. My kids would not enjoy this movie. But the reality of it is, my kids don't enjoy a lot of the stuff that I did when I was a kid. Like, they don't even enjoy Princess Bride. I thought Princess Bride was great until I watched it next to my kids and watched them, like, tune out and get bored, because the cold, hard truth is that, Bolt is a much more entertaining movie than The Princess Bride is.
Do you think are they into
Totally.
Home Alone?
My son made it through Home Alone. My daughters didn't care. So it was shocking for me how many like 90s kid movies have very, very boring adult themes to go along with them. Like as a kid, and I was a bit of an older kid by this point, I really enjoyed Hook. But now that I'm an adult and I go and I read the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, a lot of which are archived from back when that movie came out, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense that this movie got absolutely panned because it's wow, what a
Nice.
great pun. I totally didn't mean to do that. It makes sense the movie got panned because it's totally random and stupid and way too long for adults. And then for kids, it's like, why is the main character this like business executive? They don't even understand like what's going on. Like there's like 25 minutes of character development before you even land in Neverland.
I think part of
Honestly, I totally get what you're coming from with Hook because I've loved that movie as a kid, and I think the music in particular is really good. But
So
yeah, I'm
good.
scared to watch it as an adult.
It's not good.
And
They tried too hard
I
to
just
make a
wanna
4-quadrant movie. 4-quadrant
I just
movie
wanna
being like it's good for kids and adults, like
Yeah.
every demographic.
And they didn't make it.
And I just want to say that I totally see where you're coming from now, Linus. Like if I came in knowing that this movie was the campy, tongue-in-cheek thing that it is, I feel like I definitely would have enjoyed it more. But yeah, what were you going to say, Dave?
I just think that the nature of the way that we watch movies has changed so much. Like in the 90s, you only had a certain amount of VHSs, and those are going to be on loop however many times you're watching these movies. Whereas
Happy
now,
Gilmore,
like
baby.
the kid gets to decide whatever they want, whatever's on Netflix, whatever's on Disney Plus, they get to pick. And so it has to be so much more attention grabbing than movies were in the 90s, where like, yeah, you have Hook on VHS and it's one of 8 that you have. You're going to watch Hook over and over and over and over until you're forced to love it.
Have you seen a toddler watching any kind of content on a touchscreen and watch them scrub ahead when they get bored? So creepy. So scary. So dystopic.
Pretty much everything a toddler
You shouldn't be
does
able
is
to
creepy,
do
though.
that, man.
And my kids, I think there's probably like a half a dozen movies that any of them, all 3 of them put together, have ever rewatched. Frozen 1, Frozen 2 off the top of my head, and not much else.
Wow.
Really? Because I don't think that's typical.
Well, we don't watch a ton of movies and a ton of TV in the first place, but they will it's always something new. Always something new. Whereas when I was a kid, there's movies like that I look back at now and I'm like, Oliver and Company, not a great Disney movie, actually. But as a kid, I watched it over and over and over again because like James said, I only owned like 20 VHSs total.
I didn't say that, but
I mean,
whatever.
To be fair,
Same thing.
To be fair, I know people with kids whose kids watch the same movie and over. Like Frozen is every kid has seen Frozen a million times. I mean, girls especially, but.
Linus, do you find with your kids, I wonder to what extent the reason kids don't like older content or may not like it as much, I guess a lot of it has to do with pacing and stuff and how
Totally.
stimulating it is, but to what extent is it resolution? Does that matter? When they're just
No.
watching like a 90s movie and it just kind of looks like crap?
No, I don't think so. In fact, I was just trying to think of an older movie that they actually really enjoyed. I kind of want to fire up my Plex here because that might jar my memory. The movie I was thinking of was actually Night at the Museum, so that's not as old as I thought it was. That's 2006, and there's a big difference between mid-90s movies and mid-2000s movies. Another one that I didn't think of before, but that they totally couldn't get through was Free Willy. I love that movie as a kid. Watching it as an adult, I'm like, holy crap, this is an adult movie. But like, there's a whale in it to keep your kids shut up while they eat their popcorn next to you. And it's not a good adult movie. Like, it's just a bad movie.
I used to watch a ton of movies as a kid, but I think that I was just playing and I would look up at the parts I liked and then I'd go back to playing.
Yeah. Honestly, like when you're a kid watching these movies, it doesn't matter. Like the only thing that matters is that there are distinct parts that you're like, oh, cool, or like draw your attention in some way. Like I don't feel bad if I find out that some of these movies that I loved as a kid, like Hook, are actually bad. I'm like, oh, okay, fine, they're bad, but like I loved it because I watched it 18 million times. And John Williams' score is to die for.
And Robin Williams is one of the most charismatic people in history. So.
Oh yeah.
Too bad he
Can't
was never
blame
in Lord of the Rings. Just
Too bad
joking. That's just my
Gandalf. I want
segue.
Robin Williams as Gandalf.
That's just my segue into telling you guys that this episode is coming to a close and that next week we are, in fact, going to be starting off our saga of Lord of the Rings, the trilogy.
You guys aren't going to do the Hobbit movies too, are you?
That is up for debate.
Yeah, that's rough.
Subscribe to find out.
That is 9
That is
hours
being
of
tabled.
just pain.
Yeah, I'm not into it. Some people are into it. I don't know. At the very least, we are going
Peter
to do...
Jackson wasn't into it.
Got him! Yeah! At least we're going to do, like, Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, Return of the King. I believe we're doing extended cuts, even though I think the extended cut of Fellowship is worse. I said it. I think we're
Fellowship's the
extended.
only extended one that is good.
Oh, I like the Return of the King stuff.
We
Looks
gonna
like
get
there's stuff
into
to
it.
talk about. And it's because the 4K versions are coming out December 1st, guys. So that's the impetus for this. So, yes, definitely. If you're not in the convoy yet, if you're not one of those people who watches the movies beforehand and then follows along and you're like part of our tribe, do it now. It's a good time because it's winter and COVID and now it's 4K. So why not?
Did they redo any of the CGI?
I don't know. Also,
certainly
no
hope
one
not.
said that Linus was dressed like Sub-Zero today. This blue mask on. It's awesome.
Dun,
Wait, was
dun,
he?
dun,
Oh,
dun, dun,
nice.
dun, dun,
Whoa.
dun, dun, dun.
Fight.
Nice.
That's pretty good. All right, so if you guys want to email us or tweet at us, we are on Twitter at Carpool Critics. We can be reached by email at hello@carpoolcritics.ca. And you can also just leave us a review if you want because that's cool and people say it helps. I don't know if
It's
there's
so
evidence for
cool when
that.
you leave us a review, guys. Everyone loves that. It's so cool. You get clout
See you later.
online. Bye-bye.